Welcome to my channel. I'm Dani Marie AUC, and today's topic is all about white canes. Why do I need a white cane? What does a white cane do? Let's get into it. The world in general is not very accessible. It's a very visual world for sighted people because it was built by sighted people. It makes sense. Now, that's not to say that a lot of areas aren't accessible. There are great areas with sidewalks and crosswalk signs that have auditory cues and that beep at you and all kinds of fancy stuff. I do not live in one of those areas, sadly. So we have one little downtown area in my town, and it has some sidewalks and it has a handful of crosswalk signals. So it's very challenging. It was always really a dream of mine to live downtown in that area and to be able to walk from place to place and just sort of feel a little more independent. But it kind of terrifies me a little bit too. I have not been properly trained with a white cane. I've never had official O&M training. That's orientation and mobility for those of you who don't know. And really, the training I got was I was shown how to sweep the cane back and forth in front of me and to find objects and then to obviously go around those objects. That was really the extent of my training. And that training was given to me by a counselor in the Office of Support Services when I first got to community college. That was the first time I used a cane. I don't know how to cross streets with a cane. I don't know how to use my ears to cross streets and listen. I get the concepts. I get that you listen for cross traffic, but I have no experience doing it, so I have zero confidence in my ability to do it. I also don't even know how to use a cane properly when going downstairs. I generally hold the cane in front of me like this and bump it down the stairs as I go and just kind of drag my feet along behind it. And I'm sure that's probably completely wrong, but I digress. I actually had planned to get cane training, O&M, along with some basic braille, some screen reader software training, and other things before the COVID-19 pandemic hit and they closed down the state's vocational rehabilitation school. So as soon as everything is back open, I do absolutely plan to go to that school and get that training, and I am so looking forward to it. I have no idea when it will be, but I'm excited anyway. And of course, I'm gonna make videos about it because it's gonna be fun. Honestly, over the past few years, I've realized daily how poor my vision is. I don't know why it took me so long to get to a point where I really saw just how bad it was. I think I was so immersed in a world where people with albinism, so many of them have better vision than me. So I was just like, oh, my vision's probably good then too. Like, people are playing like sports that involve balls, and of course people are driving. And I mean, I thought at one point that I could drive, but that's for another video. Just honestly, I don't know how I've gotten this far and just now really realized the extent of my vision and how much it impacts my daily life, especially when it comes to getting around. So some good examples of things that are really hard for me to see are unmarked curbs, sometimes marked curbs, ramps, most of the time they aren't marked at all, uneven pieces of ground like potholes or just like holes in parking lots, and signs. Sometimes I say sometimes, I have almost walked into a sign so many times only to stop when the sign is literally a couple inches in front of my face. So a cane couldn't hurt. So what aspects of my vision are making it so hard for me to get around? So I've talked about acuity, and yes, I have poor visual acuity in general, but also there are other aspects of my vision, and these are things that come along with albinism. So I've talked about how albinism is a huge spectrum. This is going to be examples of how these vision issues affect my vision and my life personally. I have little to no depth perception, and I've said this before. Depth perception is so underrated. Trust me on this. So depth perception is created when your brain takes images from both of your eyes and puts them together to form a 3D image. So I don't have depth perception because I have issues with my optic nerve that keep my two eyes from being able to work together like they should. So I don't have 3D vision, and I don't have binocular vision. Binocular vision refers to the eye's ability to work together to focus on one object so that you can, in essence, you can zoom into that object and see it in more detail. Also, it helps you to track things better. When your two eyes work together, you can track moving objects better. Not having binocular vision also means that I struggle to measure visual distances. So I can't tell how far 6 feet is. We've discussed this in a previous video. I will put that video in a card up on the right side of the screen. I can't measure distances in my head well. Like, I can't tell, hey, it looks like that's 50 feet in another direction, or he's 2 feet from me. I struggle with measuring things like that accurately. Photophobia is the next thing that really affects my vision, especially outdoors. So photophobia is light sensitivity, and I have it because my iris lacks the pigment that normally protects your eye from UV light. It helps to filter it out before it comes into your eye. And I struggle on days that are sunny, days that are cloudy, in areas with lots of reflection from, say, sand, water, ice, snow, and asphalt as well. I squint even with sunglasses and a hat, and squinting just really limits my vision. It limits my vision field as well. I've described photophobia in great detail in a playlist called Photophobia and Light Sensitivity. I will link it in a card up in the right hand corner of the screen, and I will link that one below. Check it out if you want to learn more about photophobia and you want to learn more tips and tricks, and just to see how I manage photophobia in my day-to-day life. Another reason I really need a white cane is to identify me as someone with a visual impairment. So a lot of people don't know how much of a spectrum blindness and visual impairment is, but they've generally seen a white cane. They know that it represents someone who can't see well. Generally, most people think it means a person is totally blind, but that's one of the reasons this channel is here. We're gonna dispel that myth, hopefully. I want people to know, especially if I'm alone, in case I miss a sign that says, hey, the line's over there, and you walked right by it. That's happened. Or lately, with what's going on, I missed a sign that says, wait until we come and get you at the door, or other things like this that may give instruction that I may miss because of my vision. I also want people to understand that I'm visually impaired in case I ask what seems like a silly question. Like, where's the bathroom, when there is a sign that's probably huge, 10 feet over my head, but I can't see it. So I would prefer for people to answer my question rather than laughing at me or ignoring me entirely. That has happened. So what are the different types of canes and what do they represent? Really, there is no standard cane other than white cane or white and red cane. So I have here a long cane from the National Federation of the Blind. It is essentially a very simple cane. It's got a slightly rubberized coating on the handle here that actually does have their information on it. Let me flip this around. It says National Federation of the Blind and has their info on it. This was a free cane. This was my very first cane. It's a straight cane. It does not bend, and it is entirely white. It has one of the little metal small disc tips on the bottom, which was probably one of the original tips made with white canes. The other type of cane is a white and red cane. This is a folding cane. It seems a little stretched out. It's a little worn down, but it has red on the end instead of being all white. It also has a much nicer handle. This is a very nice rubberized handle. It's very thick and comfortable. And then mine also has a tip on it. It has it's called a marshmallow roller tip, and it spins. These are generally the two main types of canes that people use to get around if they are visually impaired or blind. But that doesn't mean they're the only type of cane that identifies someone as visually impaired or blind. There are also support canes that are white that help indicate that someone who is using a cane for support is also visually impaired. So these would be just like your regular walking canes or even walkers, or there is a push style cane with wheels on it that are all also basically wrapped in white so that everyone around the person can see that that person might also be visually impaired. There is also something called an ID or symbol cane. These canes are more simple. They don't usually have a handle. They tend to be very lightweight, and generally I think they're folding canes. They don't really have a tip on the end either, even a simple tip like this. They are really just for people who want to identify themselves as someone who's visually impaired but don't want to use the cane to get around or for mobility. I don't know anyone personally who uses one. I think I would really benefit from the mobility part of the cane as opposed to just the identification as a person with visual impairment, so I won't be using an identification cane, but that's just me. So in a future video, you will come along with me as I order a custom cane from a company called Ambutech, and I'm going to order another folding cane, but I'm gonna get a colored one. We'll talk more about that in the video as well. I'm also gonna order some tips, probably a variety to try out. And I think it's gonna be a great video. I'm gonna show you guys how I use it before I'm trained, and then later we can do a comparison after I've had O&M training. It's gonna be great. So be sure to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you can catch that video when it comes out and any of my other videos. Look out for all my white cane themed videos to be linked in a playlist in the right hand corner and below in the description box. It will be called All About the Cane. Also guys, find me on social media or comment below. What kind of cane do you use? What kind of tips do you love? Is your cane a custom cane? What color is it? I want to hear all about your canes, and I am looking forward to hearing all about your canes. So let me know below, or my social medias, which are below in the description box, or you can find them on my channel page. Until next time, stay curious. Bye.